Hey everybody, this is Ashley Jones. In this video I'm going to show you how to use your artwork tool in Perfect Embroidery Pro to create this cut file for this bookmark. I stitched the free on the house design from Dime on my bookmark, this cute little ombre feather, and that is free on the Dime website for the year of 2022. If it's after 2022, it's no longer available. So get it while you can at dzgns.com and search the free designs and you'll see this on the house feather design. So let's get started with Perfect Embroidery Pro. Okay, so this is the bookmark design that I'm going to create. The feather design is, as I said, the free design from Dime, dzgns.com, free design for the year of 2022. And I'm creating the artwork. So I'm going to show you how to create this particular shape on the artwork. So I'm going to start a new page so that we are working in a clean space. And I'm going to go up here, choose my artwork tool, and I'm going to be using the rounded option. So I'm going to click and drag to draw the rounded shape. We're going to change the size in just a bit. Now I'm going to be using my grid for alignment and my guidelines, so let's set up the grid. So on the toolbar, I'm going to do a right mouse click and choose my grid settings, and this is what I have mine set to. So the spacing is 1/4 inch for horizontal and vertical, and I have the horizontal and vertical major lines set at 4. I'm going to say OK after you've got those numbers set. And then one more thing I'd point out, click up here again on your ruler bar. It's a right mouse click. So right mouse click gets you these settings. And I would do snap to grid and snap to guidelines, where it'll just make it easier for what we're working on. So make sure both of those are checked. So that's a right mouse click on your toolbar to get to your grid settings, and also snap to grid and snap to guideline. Okay, so we've got our shape. Let's make it the size that we need. So I'm going to go over here to the transform tab and make sure that you uncheck the maintain aspect ratio, and we're going to make this 2.5 inches wide by 6 inches tall. I'm going to click apply, and then I'm going to double click my zoom tool to zoom out so I can see everything, and I'm going to make sure that I'm in the center of my grid. It looks like I am, but I'm going to do a right mouse click on the ruler bar again and say center origin. Okay, and I actually was off just slightly. So right mouse click and center origin. Okay, so now I don't love these rounded corners on this. I want them to be, you know, more of a round shape like a rectangle. So I'm going to use my guidelines. So if you click on your ruler bar again and hold and drag, you'll get these guidelines. And I'm going to set them up. I've got a 1/2 inch from the top. You can see I've got 2 of my grid spaces there, and the same thing 1/2 inch from the bottom. And then let's do the same thing left and right. So over here on the left ruler bar, click and hold, and then drag your guideline. Same thing over here, again, click, left click, drag, and I'm marking about 1/2 inch. Okay, so that's going to help me move my points from my shape tool. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and click my shape tool, and I'm going to move these points to line up at the intersection here with this particular line and here. Okay, so click and drag these points, and it'll snap to that guideline into the grid, and then I'm going to click and drag over here. Same thing, it snaps to that, and then move these points too. So let's move this one first because that one has a stop on it. So the red means that there's a stop, so whenever you move that out of the way, you'll be able to get to the actual point. So click and drag over to your line, and now I can do a right mouse click to set those, and we see that what our curve is like. So I'm going to go down to the bottom and I'm going to zoom in for this one. Okay, so I'm clicking these points, so I've got my shape tool still selected, clicking these points, and I'm just moving it to my guideline. So click and hold and drag, and it snaps right in place. Here, click, hold, and drag. Same thing over here. Click, hold, drag. Click, hold, and drag. And then do a right mouse click to set. Now I like that curve much better. Okay, so I'm going to double click my zoom tool and see what we got. Now I can click my select tool and just double check my work. I love it. So now we need to create that little curve at the top and our eyelet. So I'm going to choose my, let's zoom in first. So I'm going to choose my zoom tool and zoom into the top just so you guys can see a little bit better here. Okay, and then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a point in these two locations to make that kind of dome shape. So I'm going to go back to my select tool, or my shape tool, sorry, shape tool, and I'm going to add a point about like halfway into this 1/4 inch. So it doesn't have to be perfect. So click on the line, and then if you do a right mouse click here and say add point, and I'm going to do the same thing over here. So about halfway right after this point. So I'm going to right mouse click right where I want the point and say add point. And then let's do one in the center. So right here in the center, right mouse click and add point. Okay, and so what that allows me to do is to move this up and create that kind of dome shape there. And this point right here I'm actually going to get rid of, so I'm going to select it. That was that original ending point, so I'm going to click it and then just press delete. Now you can see how it's more of an even curve here. So now these points here, if you right mouse click, I think I want to make them a line. So line makes them kind of a squared off, and you can see how that kind of made my dome a little bit more. And then here, if I want this to be more rounded off, I can drag my Bezier handles out. So you can see how that kind of makes that more of a dome. Make sure you're keeping it even while you're doing it. There we go. So I kind of like that. I'm just going to make this one a little bit more. It looks a little uneven. There we go. And say right mouse click and update path, or usually the right mouse click sets it. So there we have our cute little curvature of our bookmark. So now I just need an eyelet. So I'm going to choose my select tool, go back up to my artwork tool, and choose the ellipse. And then I'm going to click and drag to make the ellipse. Now I want it to be a perfect circle, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down my my control key, hold down my control key before I click and drag, and that makes a perfect circle. And so hold down your control key, click and drag. Now this I want it to be, well, wow, that was pretty accurate. I was going to say about 1/4 inch is a good size to slip a ribbon through. If you're using maybe a thicker ribbon, or I made a tassel out of yarn, then you can make it smaller or larger if you need to. So, but I'm just going to drop it down right at this intersection here of the 0 point of my grid. So that's the location. So, and let's zoom out and check out our work. And I'm going to turn off my grid so that we can see that. And there we go. And I can even remove the guidelines by doing a right mouse click on the ruler bar and say remove guidelines, and there's our bookmark. So now this can be a cut file, which is what I did. I just stitched my feather on paper and cut out this shape on my digital cutter. You could, if you wanted this to be a satin stitch, maybe you want an embroidered bookmark. So if you select your artwork and come down to your effects panel, which is down here, the little star, you can actually click to make that a still stitch, which is a satin stitch that's all the same width. You can also make it a run stitch if you wanted to, and even an applique if you want to do make it freestanding, where you're putting down the fabric and trimming away the excess and then rip away your stabilizer. And then I would do the same thing for the eyelet here so that you could punch that out. So make that a steel stitch. Okay. But again, I left mine artwork and saved that to cut file. So I'm going to do an undo here and get back to my artwork. Now you have the choice of an FCM or an SVG. So File, Export Artwork, and from the drop down list, these are your options. So FCM, SVG, or if you have a cutter that takes a DXF or maybe even a PLT. So just choose your format, save it, and it's ready to take that file to your digital cutter. So I saved my design and took it to my cutter, and then for my feather I'm going to do File and Merge, and I can check to make sure my feather fits exactly where it should. So I'm going to go down, I've got them saved here on my C drive, file format here. And then I just rotated that to fit my bookmark. And there you have it. Hope you enjoyed this video.